Ned looked at the tear-stricken face of his nephew. He could hear the sniffles in his voice as he spoke. Had he messed even this up? Could he do nothing right? "John, I'm not and will never throw you out. You hear me? Winterfell is your home. It's yours for as long as you want it to be. You mean it." "Aye, lad, of course I mean it." John threw his arms around his father, and for the first time almost since he was born, Ned hugged his nephew. He felt him relax against him, and felt the sniffling begin to subside. So he decided now was the time to speak to him like he should have in the first place. Having Cat there had been a mistake. He saw that now, but he thought the idea would have pleased John. Had he misread things, he needed to find out. "John, the offer from Lord Jaime is real." He felt his nephew stiffen against him. "He really does think you have the potential to be a knight and would like the chance to train you. This isn't about throwing you out. This is a real opportunity for you, John. But if it's not what you want, then that's fine. I only want what's best for you." "But I'd have to leave, wouldn't I?" "Aye, you would, lad. But it wouldn't have to be gone forever. You could come back and visit. And when you were a knight, you could come back for good, if you want. It's up to you, lad." Ned helped him over to the bed, settling him down. He gave him his warmest smile. Pleased to see John return it, he tucked him in and ruffled his hair, getting a small pout that reminded him so much of his mother. It hurt. He sat down on the bed beside him. "Listen, why don't you sleep on it? Ok. Have a word with Lord Jaime in the morning and then decide what you want. If you want to go for it, then do it. And if you want to stay, then do that. No one will force you to do anything you don't want. John, I promise you." Ned shuddered softly as the words left his lips. Hopefully he could keep this promise better than the last one. John nodded and shut his eyes, the events clearly taking a toll on him, so Ned got up and walked to the door. Looking back, he could see his nephew was already fast asleep. John woke up feeling much better. He didn't have to leave if he didn't want to, but did he want to? That was something he wasn't sure about. To become a knight, have a future. He dreamed of those things, to be away from Winterfell, from Robb, Sansa, little Arya and his father. That was the stuff of nightmares. But Winterfell also meant Lady Catelyn. She hated him. She would always hate him. And while his father said he didn't have to leave, she made it hard to want to stay. He needed to talk to Lord Jaime. He needed to know that he wasn't being offered this chance because of pity. If he really did believe in him, then perhaps leaving wasn't so scary. Jaime was nowhere to be found. Had he left already? Did he miss his chance? What would he do if he had left? John felt as if he'd messed up completely. If he'd just said yes when his father told him he could have left with him. Instead, he let himself cry like a baby. He was about to do so again. He could feel the tears welling in his eyes. "So there you are." He turned around to see Lord Jaime staring at him intently. Relief filled his heart when he realized he had another chance to take his offer, but the little voice in his head reminded him that it may be because he pitied him. "Aye, you oak lad. Father told me that you may am. Ah, he told you about my offer to have you be my page, did he? Yeah, he said you thought I could be a knight. Not just any knight, lad, a true knight like Sir Arthur Dayne or Aemon the Dragon Knight." John was stunned. Sir Arthur Dayne, the Sword of the Morning, Aemon the Dragon Knight. These weren't just knights, these were legends. Sir Arthur was the greatest swordsman that ever lived, and Aemon was the noblest knight ever. But I'm a bastard. Is your heart less pure than a true-born son? John, is your skill lesser because of your name? You think I have skill. Everything I've said to you since I've been here, John, has been true, so listen to me now. I've never seen anyone as skilled as you are at your age. Even those who have years on you are less skilled than you. So, young man, what do you say? Do you have it in you to prove them all wrong? To show that you're not just good, but that you can be better than all of them? Will you be my page, Jon Snow? John looked at him. He saw the truth in his eyes. He meant it. It wasn't pity or trying to find favor with his father. He was the white lion of Khan. He wanted to train John because he saw something in him, something he wanted to polish and hone, something he saw in no one else. For the first time, John felt a sense of pride overwhelm him. "Aye, my lord, it'd be an honor." "Of course it would," Jaime replied before the two started laughing. Earlier that day, John and Robb had said their goodbyes. Tears shared between them, but both swore to write, and John promised to return as soon as he was able. They hugged, and John went to say goodbye to the rest of his siblings. He walked to the nursery, where little Arya would hopefully be awake. He wanted to look into her eyes as he said goodbye rather than say the words to a sleeping child. Luckily for him, Arya was an active baby. She'd grow to be a wild little wolf, he thought as he approached the crib. "Hello, little one. It's your big brother John. I love you, little sister, so much. Please don't forget me. I won't forget you." He looked at the babe with tears in his eyes. Young as he was, he knew it was hopeless. The chance that she'd remember him was pretty much naught. He doubted even that his name would be spoken if Lady Catelyn got her way. He almost ran from the nursery, his emotions getting the better of him. Sansa was, as usual, by her mother's side, with Septa Mordain hovering in the background like she always did. Jon nervously approached, the scowl on Lady Catelyn's face easy to read, as always. He didn't even need to look at her to know she wore that scowl. It was her go-to expression when he was around. "What do you want, boy?" I came to say goodbye to my sister." Catelyn glared at him, pulling Sansa tighter to her. "Do it and be gone." He approached as closely as he dared and looked down at the little red-haired angel that was his sister. She smiled at him and then frowned. He noticed that her mother had almost yanked her back when she saw the smile on her face. "Sansa, I came to say goodbye." "No, you stay." "I can't, Sansa." "I can't, Sansa. I'm going to be a knight. I'm going to miss you, sister." He watched as the little girl nodded before running over to give him a hug, tears filling his eyes as she gripped him tightly. Before he could even begin to let go, though Lady Catelyn was pulling her daughter from his arms, her face a mixture of hate and disgust that Jon knew only too well. "Very well, boy. You've said your goodbyes. Now go." She turned with Sansa in her arms and walked back to the scepter, both women looking satisfied that the bastard would no longer be around to corrupt her precious children. He left the room as quickly as he could without running from it, heading straight to the one place he could be alone and not be bothered, the crypts. It was there later that Jaime found him crying in front of the statue of his aunt. Jaime shook his head, clearing the memory as he turned to see Jon looking back at the castle with a last look. "Come, Jon. The rock awaits, and we have a long way ahead of us." A few weeks later, weeks had flown in. He'd seen places he'd only ever heard about in conversations around Winterfell. They had followed the King's Road and stopped for a night at Castle Serwyn. It was there they and the King's retinue had parted ways, as Jaime said they moved too slow for him, although Jon got the feeling that he really just didn't like the King. The Serwyns had thrown a feast to celebrate having the King in their castle, and as usual the King had enjoyed himself to the fullest. Jon sat at the back, stunned that Jaime sat with him rather than at the high table with the King, although given how the King behaved, it shouldn't have been that surprising. "You boy, the King wishes to speak to you," the stern Meryn Trant said as he tugged on his shoulder. "What does he want?" Jaime asked, annoyed by the presence of his former brother. "He wants to speak to the bastard Kingslayer." Fauntaunteth in the hall were upon him. Let me get a look at you, boy. "Aye, you're Ned's bastard all right, off to be a knight, are you?" Hopefully, your grace." "Kingslayer, where are you? Get up here." Jaime left his seat and reluctantly walked to the front of the hall. A small part of him had worried that the King might recognize someone other than Stark in the boy, but the King saw what he wanted to, and, besides the way he was eyeing the bosom of the serving girl, probably had his mind on other things. "Yes, your grace. So gonna make a knight out of Ned's boy, are you, Kingslayer?" "Undoubtedly, your grace, the boy is talented. Just like his father, then. Indeed, your grace, very much so." "Boy, did you know your father slew Sir Arthur Dayne, killed the damned Sword of the Morning in single combat? By the gods, what I'd have given to see that fight." Jaime grimaced at the King's words. There was no way in hell Stark could defeat Arthur, not in single combat, not with numbers on his side. How it had happened he didn't know, but there had to be trickery or underhandedness involved, although given Ned Stark's precious honor, he wasn't sure how that could be. "You'll be just as good, no doubt, won't you, boy?" "I hope so, your grace. Humble, just like your old man. A fine knight you'll be." The rest of the night passed quickly, and they had moved on the next morning. They had seen the mighty Moat Cailin, and despite it being in disrepair, Jon could see why no one had ever taken the fortress. They passed through the neck, and Jon was delighted to see lizard lions swimming in the swamp. Although he had made sure not to get too close, he liked his fingers too much. Their travels had gone smoothly, and Jaime had taken the time to speak to him and spar with him. He called him his page. but most of his duties seemed to be those of a squire. Although the armor was too heavy and hard to lift, he still did his best and kept it clean, enjoying the words of praise he received from Jamie for doing so. His favorite times, though, were the stories Jamie would tell after they'd finished sparring. Sir Arthur faced down the Smiling Knight, their two swords moving faster and faster, and then with a loud crash the Smiling Knight's sword broke. Arthur, chivalrous as ever, paused the fight and allowed him to pick up another sword. "It's you, sword, I want, Sir Arthur," the Smiling Knight said, pointing at Dawn. "Then you shall have it, sir," Arthur replied. The two blades clashed again and again. The knight was skilled, but Arthur was an artist, the finest swordsman I've ever seen, perhaps the greatest ever. It was inevitable he would win, and win he did, slaying the Smiling Knight and bringing to an end the Kingswood Brotherhood. He knighted. You didn't, my lord. Aye, that he did, lad. Proudest day of my life was being knighted by the Sword of the Morning, the finest knight, the finest man I ever knew. Jamie told John more stories as they traveled. He told him of Sir Barristan defeating Maelys, the monstrous ending the Blackfire line. He told him of the rogue prince jumping from his dragon, Caraxes to slay Aemon above the god's eye. But it was the tales of Aemon. The Dragon Knight that caught John's attention the most, a true knight and Kingsguard. Things continued along in this vein as they passed through the Twins. John shuddered as he remembered Jamie dealing with Walder Frey and the toll they had to pay to pass. Finally, they reached Seaguard, where they would take a ship to Lannisport. The Mallisters were surprisingly welcome, considering they were Tully bannermen, and he was the bane of their liege lord's daughter's life. "My lord, why are we taking a ship?" he asked as they waited in a tavern near the docks. "I've been away too long, and it'll be moons more if we travel overland. From here, though, a ship will have us in Lannisport within the moon, and it's just a short ride to the Rock from there." "What's the Rock like, my lord?" "Ah, how to explain it? It's unlike any castle in Westeros, and I've missed it more than I thought I would. But as for the rest, my boy, well, you're going to have to wait until we get there. Wouldn't want to ruin the surprise now, would we?" He smirked, as John frowned at him. He ruffled his hair, forcing a smile, and then nudged his shoulder, nearly forcing him to fall to finally get a laugh from him. The time spent on the ship was something he wished he could forget. He wasn't built for sea travel, and Jamie took great pleasure in doing his best to rub it in. Although given how sick he got, he stopped after a while and became concerned for him. It was different for John to have someone look after him and worry as much as Jamie did. He brought the cold water and towels to place on John's head himself, and even though John really didn't want to eat, Jamie made sure he got some food in his stomach every day. When they eventually reached Lannisport, he could have kissed the ground. He resolved to never set foot on a ship again if he could help it, but knew that it was likely to be necessary sometime. Lannisport was incredible to see, especially for a boy who thought Wintertown was large. The streets were paved, and the amount of people was mind-blowing. As he walked with Jamie, they were often forced to stop as people addressed the new shield of Lannisport, just one of the many titles Jamie now held. "Good afternoon, my lord. Pleased to see you, my lord. Best of health to you. Sir Jamie, I mean my lord." Jamie nodded and smiled where appropriate, but just like he could see the frown on John's face. He too was tired of the delays that these niceties caused. He was happy when they finally reached the escort that his uncle Kevin had sent, even more pleased to see Sir Adam was there, but even more pleased to see his uncle Geryon leading it. "Finally, the lion returns," his uncle said, his usual sarcasm evident. "Aye, looks like I came just in time, uncle. Why, you're looking positively dreadful." "Little Joy has been unwell. I'm sorry to hear it, uncle." "Well, never mind. It's good to have you back, my lord." He shook his head as his uncle grabbed him in an embrace. If even Geryon was being formal, this was going to be a nightmare. He turned to John, who was standing there quietly, taking it all in, looking around at the strange city and stranger people. Well, Geryon was strange. Adam, not so much. He looked overawed. "Uncle, may I introduce my new page and soon-to-be squire?" "Ah, so that's who the lad is. Been wondering that since I got here, has the look of a northerner. What's your name, lad?" Geryon asked as John stepped forward. John Snow, my lord," John said nervously. "Well, young Master Snow, don't let this one overwork you." He bent down to whisper in his ear. He wasn't a very good page himself. "You know, don't let him fool ya." He laughed as he patted the boy on the shoulder. "Well, shall we?" Your brother is waiting, as are your uncles. Be aware, though the new Lord of Casterly Rock needs to be presented, so it'll be a bit of palaver. Never let it be said we Lannisters are subtle or unassuming, his uncle said before laughing loudly. Now where the hell did I leave my damn horse? Jaime smiled. It was good to be back, good to see his uncle again. If there was one thing he knew, with Geryon around, things wouldn't be dull. They walked to their horses and began the trek to Casterly Rock. He was pleased to see Adam talking to John, who looked enraptured listening to him. God knows what tales he'd tell the boy. But still, it was nice of his to take the time. That's Ned Stark's bastard, isn't it? Aye, it is uncle. How in the hell did you get Ned Stark to let you take his bastard as a page? Actually, scratch that. Why in the hell did you take him as a page? Actually, never mind, I don't want to know, just tell me this. How are you going to explain it to Kevin and the Lords that you have a bastard as a page? I'm the warden of the West Uncle. My days explaining are over. Finally, they crested the small hill where he knew they see the castle for the first time. He motioned to Adam to send John over. As the boy rode towards him, he smiled. This is it. This is where it begins. This is where he fulfills his promise. And God help anyone. Welcome to the Rock. The last few moons had flown in for John. He'd been kept busy with lessons, sparring, and with his work as a page for Jaime. Surprisingly, he found that most of this included attending Jaime in meetings, and while he occasionally filled glasses of wine or got refreshments for the guests, he usually spent the meeting standing by Jaime's shoulder while Jaime held court. Today, though, he was given a free day. Jaime would do this every so often. Just give him a day to explore the Rock, speak to people, read, or whatever he wanted. Jaime said he needed to enjoy things as much as he needed his lessons. The lessons he took were completely different than the ones he had taken in Winterfell. Here he learned about running a castle, about trade. He learned about the houses of the kingdoms and their relationships to each other and who their bannermen were. The lessons which confused him the most were when Jaime instructed him to learn High Valyrian and the harp. Why do I need these, my lord? You need to be well-rounded, John. It can't all be facts and figures or warfare and fighting. A man needs to be cultured also. But the harp, my lord. What's wrong with the harp, John? A good bard would have all the ladies of the land swooning. I'm a bastard, my lord. No lady will swoon for a bastard. John, if only you knew. Let me let you in on a little secret. While some will care which side of the sheets you're born on, others will not. Your deeds, your accomplishments, that'll be what defines you, not whether you're noble or true-born. Do you understand, John? Jaime asked. I think so, my lord. Good. Then the harp. It'll be my young friend, and I expect good things from you. So John had taken his lessons, and found to his shock that the harp came as easy to him as swordplay, now just a few moons into the lessons, and he could play most of the... He walked down the hall hoping to find Tyrion. They had become fast friends, the older man's wit and intelligence sparking something in John. It was because of Tyrion that he found himself taking books from the Rock's library and reading at night, something he had never done in North. A mind needs books, like a sword needs a whetstone. If it's to keep its edge, that is why I read so much. Tyrion had said, and John couldn't help agree with him. He found that he enjoyed reading, and the discussions and debates he had with Tyrion about some of what he read had brought the two even closer. As he reached Tyrion's room, though he was disappointed to find it empty, he thought about going looking for him, but he heard a muffled sound of crying and headed in that direction instead. The room he entered was some sort of a nursery. There on the ground was a little blonde girl. She couldn't have been more than 2 name days old, and she was sitting on her own, sobbing. John moved over to the girl and sat down beside her. She looked at him, her green eyes filled with tears, but her sobbing had stopped. Hello, my name is John. John, she said softly through her sniffles. Yes, John, are you hungry? No, play, John, play. You want me to play with you? The girl nodded enthusiastically. John looked around the room, finally finding some stuffed lions and some dolls. He moved to go over to them, but the young girl grabbed his arm. No, John, stay. He smiled at her and reached his hand out to her. She looked at him confused before taking his hand, and they both went over to where the stuffed toys were. Grr, he said as he moved the lion towards her, the little girl laughing now. Grr, I'm a lion. No, Jon, no lion, Jon. She giggled at him as she backed away, so he picked up a doll and handed it to her, noticing the smile she gave get even bigger. What's her name? He asked. Yoan. No, that's my name. What's Dolly's name? Yoi. You want to call the Dolly Joy, he said as the girl nodded vigorously. Is that your name? He pointed at her. Joy! She nodded before she pointed at him. Yon. She laughed. The two played for almost an hour before the maid entered the room. He noticed Joy's expression change from happy to sad almost immediately. I'm sorry, my lord, I just stepped out for a moment, the maid said, clearly not expecting anyone to be here. I've been here an hour. You're lying. I'm sorry, my lord. It's fine. I'll look after Joy until her father gets here. You'll no longer be required. Please, my lord, I needs this job. My family. This is all we. You can work somewhere else in the castle, but you'll no longer be left in charge of a babe you can't take care of. Thank you, my lord. Thank you so much, the girl said before running from the room. John turned back to Joy to notice her smile was back on her face. He picked up the lion again and watched as she squealed as he moved towards her. The two of them played around before he heard a rumble come from her stomach. You hungry? Yep. John will take you for some food, little one. He stood up and offered her his hand as she took it, though he lifted her up and swung her around. The giggles he got for it stirred something in his heart. He carried the girl and made his way down to the kitchen, noticing the stares. He got from some of the servants and guards on the way. He continuously spoke to her as they walked, and by the time they reached the kitchen, she was resting her head on his shoulder. I came to get some food for young Joy here, he said to the small, dark-haired cook.
Of course, my lord, right away.
I don't really know what she eats, though.
That's fine, my lord. I usually prepare Joy's meals myself. I know what the young miss likes.